Welcome to the Inspired Caring podcast, where women who are in the messy middle of this big, beautiful, and sometimes chaotic life are finding inspiration and resources to care for themselves and figure out the best options to care for their aging loved ones. How we take care of ourselves today impacts how we are aging tomorrow. This podcast will help you feel seen, centered, and aligned. Everyone that relies on you is so lucky to have you in their life. The Inspired Caring podcast is your reminder that the number one person that counts on you is yourself. Congratulations on being here in this moment. Let's dive in and be inspired. Hello. How is it going? How are you really doing? It's a good question, isn't it? Checking in with yourself. Just take a minute, check in with yourself. How is it going in your world right now? Feels a little chaotic out there. I'm really focused on locally, like in my body. How am I doing? What am I doing for myself within my community? What am I doing? What can I be doing to take care of myself? That helps me feel like things are more within my control than potentially they are, but it's a good place to start. So today, let's talk about the scale of acceptance. The scale of acceptance. I have found in all of my years of working with families that the faster we can move along this scale of acceptance, the easier things get. And really, it's in every aspect of my life. I guess it kind of ties in with where we started, but the faster that I can move to, okay, this is where we're finding ourselves right now. How do I engage right now with where things are at? And what do I want things to look like going forward? I think that's really important too. I am working with a wife who's caring for her husband at home, and the progression of his Parkinson's disease, things are moving along the disease process. So he's in a later stage of this disease process, and his dementia is advancing. And when we first began working together, she was just constantly spinning on two specific words. And quite frankly, these two words, she found them very upsetting and painful, to the point that her anger and the resentment that were building every time she thought these two words were getting in the way of her ability to care for herself or him the way she wanted to. And those two words are used to. Used to. You could also substitute those with should be able to. But used to is really where she was stuck. And this is a topic that comes up really regularly with families who are caring for older loved ones, and especially when it comes to dementia, for people living with dementia. So you're sitting in front of someone that seemingly looks relatively the same. Now, in my experience, and I think this is true for most people, just as a dementia progresses, you can just see a shift in their eyes and their affect. But most of the time, especially in earlier days, people just look the way that they've always looked, generally. So you're sitting in front of someone that looks relatively the same as they have in the past, but that person's ability to connect with you, or maybe how they're dressing now, or how they respond to questions, has just completely changed from how they used to be. They used to be such a sharp dresser, and now they're only in sweats. They used to be meticulous with their habits. Now they're dripping shoes all over the house. They used to do their hair every day, and now the hair is never curled. They used to be so brilliant, so bright, and now they can barely formulate a sentence. They used to buy me gifts for my birthday and call about the kids' activities, and now none of those things are on their radar. Things that previously would have been completely unacceptable to them are now integrated into their daily life. And this is a very slippery slope. When you start spinning on those words of what they used to be able to do. So we find ourselves watching someone that we love slowly lose themselves, their abilities, their superpowers, their habits, their patterns of behavior. And we relied on all of those things because it's what made them up to be who they were. And we're watching all of this fade, and it can just be so heartbreaking because we are very attached to the previous version of them. We knew what to expect. We knew it, how it related to ourselves. In a partnership, if we're talking about a spouse, we've entered into this relationship with someone because we were attracted to this certain version of them, and it fit well with the certain version of us. And Todd and I have been married for 25 years, and we have both changed a lot. So we're in this state in our partnership where things are changing anyway, just because of growth and evolution and maturity and age and wisdom. So it's not like this is uncommon that relationships to one another have shifted. But what's really fascinating to me is, and I've seen this, that maybe in the past people have had tumultuous relationships. Maybe there was a lot of bickering and fighting between people or between us and someone. And it's just a dance that was familiar. So even if it wasn't great, we just kind of knew what to expect. We knew where we stood. We knew how to engage. It literally takes two to tango. But now we have someone who is this new version of themselves that requires a lot of attention, maybe more assistance. They are seemingly generally looking the same, but they are totally different. And this is where we also begin to see social circles shrink because maybe friends are unable to accept this new version of someone that they've been in relationship with. So they don't come around as much anymore to visit. It's really hard. Friends can't handle this new version. So their entire relationship was obviously built on a past version of who they were, which totally makes sense, right? That's all the relationships in our lives are based on that. But when we're thinking about this scale of acceptance, what is very clear is some of us are further down along this scale than others. And sometimes there are family members who just totally get it. They get it right away. And then there's other people that really struggle with this. And there are certain people that are just never going to get it. Like they're never going to move along the scale of acceptance. They cannot see what is in front of them or who this version of someone is in front of them. They don't want to accept it. They really just want to hold on to a past version of someone. And in some circumstances, that is perfectly okay. They don't have to come along for the ride. And in other circumstances, there are some risks to that. And we're going to just briefly touch on those today. What we know is, I think about that phrase, it is what it is. That's what comes to mind. And although I think there can be some harshness in this sentiment of it is what it is, the underlying meaning really is pretty sound. I feel like this is where we find ourselves today. So resisting the changes and focusing on the losses day after day after day is really keeping you stuck in anger and resentment. And it is robbing you of precious time. Not just time you have with this new version of someone, but time in your own life of how you want to be thinking and feeling, right? We want to be feeling calm and centered and just full of love. And when we are stuck and looping on used to and we're not moving along that scale of acceptance, it's just creating distress in our own bodies, in our own minds. I was thinking about this the other day. It's like super profound and not that profound, but I walked downstairs and I was looking around my home and I'm like, this is my life. Like how I am choosing to feel today is my choice. And there's going to be a lot of external circumstances that are going to be coming for me, but this is my life. And how do I want to feel today in my life? So catch yourself, be aware of the language that you are using. Because the other thing that's really dangerous is that this resistance is potentially robbing the person that you're caring for from care decisions. If you are really convinced that they used to be able to do something and they should still be able to do that thing that they used to be able to do, like brushing their teeth or paying the bills, there's just going to be a lot of missed teeth brushing days and a lot of flub ups with the bills. I had a resident who spent a lot of time in his young adulthood drinking and tinkering in his garage when his daughter was growing up. And she felt like he was an absentee father and he was not there for her in her childhood. His dementia had progressed. And he would just, towards the end of the day, that his sundowning would just leave him really agitated and upset. And he was in that space of just teetering on nonverbal, meaning he didn't talk very much, and potentially, depending on the day, some days are better than others, the combination of words that he put together didn't always quite make sense. So one day, our brilliant life enrichment director gave him our weighted baby. This was very out of left field. Like, it was not something, when we think about who he was as he came into the building to live, this just would not have been on our radar as something that he would have enjoyed, because it was a doll. It's a doll about the size and weight of an 8-pound baby. And his reaction was so unexpected. He lit up. We even heard it was even documented. We heard him say, "My job is to take care of the baby." And this infuriated the daughter. Here was this woman in her late 50s, early 60s, and so full of anger and resentment toward her dad about her childhood that she could not see who he was today. She could not accept that he no longer was the dad who made the choice for whatever reason. We don't know. For whatever reason, he chose to be in the garage instead of her life. But today he was an older man living in a nursing home because he was unable to take care of himself. And on most days, he was unclear how she fit into his life. And she did not want him to hold that baby. And it was one of the few things that brought him moments of peace and joy in his day. So when we are catching ourselves in those moments and you find your mind serving up those two words, used to, the first thing I want you to do, I invite you to pause, like a game of red light, green light. Catch yourself saying, they used to be able to do this, or they should be able to do that. The next thing I want you to do is don't fight that feeling that you are having. Do not resist the words, and do not work yourself up by comparing what is possible today with what has happened or abilities in the past. This is our first goal, is to just acknowledge this and give the words the proper attention they deserve. And just feel it. Feel the hurt. Feel the disappointment. Feel the unfairness. Feel the frustration. Just give yourself 2 minutes to grieve this transition. It takes 90 seconds for our body to process an emotion. The resistance to reality is crushing us. Now that we are aware of the scale of acceptance, Now that you've just taken a minute to not resist the feelings that you're feeling, I want you to focus on this person who is actually in front of you right now. Just pause. Make eye contact with them. If you can muster a smile, smile. Connect with the person with where they are today, right now. Our industry speak that we use is meet them where they are at. And this is what we're talking about. Just taking a breath, taking a step back, looking at this person in front of us and kind of where are they right now and what do they need right now. Next, I want you to consider what is one thing that is different, but that is maybe okay. If you can get to something that is good, that would be amazing. But just getting to that feeling of something that is okay is moving you in the right direction on the scale of acceptance. Perhaps it's something that they are still able to do independently. Perhaps it's something that is different, but sometimes good. Maybe they're singing more than they ever have before, and you're not sure where that came from. Maybe they're able to delight in something little that in the past would have been brushed over. Maybe there's some space for some humor here. Every round you do of this, of the pausing, the observation, the awareness, that is moving you a notch on that scale of acceptance because your expectations of them are beginning to shift. You realize that this person needs assistance with something that maybe they didn't in the past. And this person may enjoy something different than they would have had in the past. Or this person is delighting in something unexpected that maybe in the past they would not have found delightful. I mean, I also think about those words used to and how there are actual benefits to them because our habits have tremendous influence on our life. Our habits impact everything from how we are aging, what we're able to accomplish, how we are feeling every day in our life. If we're overeating, over drinking, overindulging in self-doubt or anything, maybe they used to drink 3 beers a night and they don't anymore. Maybe they used to smoke and they don't anymore. Maybe they used to sit and eat dinner, watching TV in isolation, and now they are with other people for their meals. It is easier to accept something that was negative or bad that has been released than something that is important and precious to us and that helped us feel connected to them or contributed to their independence. I mean, that's obvious, I guess, that it would be easier when that is no longer available to them. In my experience, this is one of actually the beautiful things about having professional caregivers coming into the home or that move to senior living because they're not the team members are not on the emotionally charged comparison train, expecting someone to be the way they were the last time that they saw them, and they don't have that attachment to who they were 2, 5, or 10 years ago. We are creating a new relationship with someone with who they are right now. I'd have families say to me, "Oh, I wish you would have known them 5 years ago. You would have loved them." And my response was really consistent. And in a gentle way, I would say it's just such a privilege for me to get to know who they are right now. I love them right now. They bring a lot of joy to my life right now, who they are as they are. And you'll hear this. This is how people who are working in senior care feel about family members. So the goal with the scale of acceptance and releasing those words used to is to help manage realistic expectations of someone so that you can meet them where they're at and that the result is you'll feel less charged up and you can create a different connection that will leave both of you feeling calmer and more centered with where things are today. This is hard. This is really hard. And I see you and I love you, and you are doing a great job.